There's a false answer to this and there's a true answer to this. I'm going to start with the false one because it sounds more sexy.
Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix. Hello and welcome to this episode of The Fix. I am joined today not by my good friend and buddy and pal Nick O'Connor, but by the wonderful Alex Myatt. Hello, Alex. How are you doing?
Hello, Glenn. I'm doing very well. Even better for having seen your face and listened to your voice.
We are going to be digging into Alex's life and his world. I have a prop that I will hold up if we get into boringness, which we pre-agreed on. I've got a copy of Jean-Paul Sartre's Being and Nothingness, although in the preamble, Alex did criticize my pronunciation of the word Horncastle, or place Horncastle. He believes it should be Horncastle.
Yes.
And I did say Sartre there, so I don't know if you'd prefer Sartre.
Sartre? Sartre?
Sartre, that's multiple Sartre running around.
Of course.
Streets of Paris. Hello, Alex. How are you doing?
Hello, Glenn. I am very well, thank you. I noticed I don't actually have a prop to hold up if you drone on.
My props are infinite in this little world that I'm in. We got that.
Flex my copywriting money and hold up a brand new Google Pixel 8 Pro. There we go, which I have not set up yet, but I need to.
You're not an iPhone man?
No, I was a few years ago, and then I switched to Android for no other reason than a change. And now I want to go to Google because I like Google and I use it for everything. So, if I could pop up an affiliate link there, maybe in the edit.
Yeah,
just Google.
Is it Eric Schmidt? I can't imagine he's still in charge of the thing, but whoever's in charge of Google will.
As long as I get paid, I don't mind.
Get you sorted.
But yeah.
Right, so let's get digging down into your life. I want to talk to you, Alex, about your journey through the world of copywriting, because I was saying before we were just talking, it's a relatively accelerated one. Many years ago, you emailed me. It turns out I had no control over that. I didn't force you to email me, but you emailed me. And you were at that point on the verge of coming into the world of copywriting. Like me, which is quite a rare set of circumstances, you were an auditor before you were a copywriter. We are two
remind me. Yes.
Auditor to copywriter alumni. If you are also an auditor and you are thinking about getting out, try copywriting. I don't know why you'd be listening to this if you were, but anyway. But in 5 years' time, you flash forward and you are now a fully fledged copywriter, making money from it. That's your career. You also a joint host, jointly run a show called Copy That, and a bit of an enterprise, which we're going to talk about at the conclusion. But before we get to that, how did you go from a young, ambitious man who knew to come and speak to Glenn Fisher and email Glenn? I jest, of course, but what happened? Where were you? What led to getting out of audit and reaching out into the world of copywriting?
Oh, good question. I wasn't expecting that question. I think that there's a false answer to this and there's a true answer to this. I'm going to start with the false one because it sounds more sexy, which is that when I was it's true, but it's not really the reason. When I was 15, I began volunteering at a dog rescue center, and because I was young, they gave me control of social media because they thought that was the thing to do. And in that also came control of like leaflet campaigns and things like that of that nature. And I started to kind of realize as I did things and as I wrote leaflets and I sent like what was direct mail then out to people asking for donations and local businesses and things like that, I noticed some did better than others. I'm not going to pretend like this was a big light bulb moment. And I was like, oh my God, A/B testing, what a phenomenal thing. I didn't know what I was doing. But that was my first exposure to advertising. And I think that probably sowed the seeds of my kind of later interest in it, because when I realized I could make money off of this, I was like, I actually really enjoyed when I did something like that before. But anyway, pedaling along a couple of years, when I was kind of 17 going on 18, I got a job in audit at Bedford Borough Council, which is honestly one of the most exciting councils. And I was kind of just sat there. I don't know if it was a moment or over the course of weeks or whatever. And I think as we were talking about before this, Glenn, I was like, I feel like I can do more than this. I'd always enjoyed writing. And I think I basically Googled how to make money from writing, as I'm sure many aspiring copywriters do. And I got onto content writing initially. So doing articles, writing subtitles for videos for like less than 1 cent a word. Again, kind of still thinking there must be something more to it, something to do. Somehow over the next year, I kind of stumble onto the world of official copywriting, however you want to define it, and realized that sales copy was a thing. Start watching more videos, reading books. I actually came across The Art of the Click, which some handsome chap wrote.
I've heard of it. I've heard it recommended, but
yeah, it's not great.
Not read it. Full of
no, it is very good. Anyone watching this, please do read it if you have not yet. But that was one of the books I read, and through that, I kind of convinced myself during the pandemic. This was that. Yep, I want to go into marketing. I want to go into copywriting full time. I'm going to do that. I was already earning, I don't know, maybe like £500 a month from content writing and gigs on Fiverr. After reading books like that and then seeing a couple of things, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I then stumbled upon the author, one of your blog posts where you said, hey, if anyone's interested in joining Agora at the time, it was, email me, send me a message and tell me why. I think you had already left, or you were doing your own thing at that point. So I emailed, I said, hey, I want to do this. You basically went back saying, oh, Alex, really sorry, I'm not doing this anymore. But then you gave me some advice. And the advice you gave me was along the lines of, the only thing that you can do wrong is not do anything. Just keep trying things and keep reaching out to businesses and keep having a look on these job boards and stuff like that. Just don't stop, because the moment you stop, it's not going to happen. Which at the time, I actually remember was underwhelming advice. I was like, why didn't you give me the magic word or an email template that I could send to a business and then they'd pay me thousands of pounds? But that aside, I did take it to heart and I did follow the advice. And I kind of ended up where I am now. How much more depth do you want me to go into? That's the kind of short version.
Yeah, no, that's we've got to the first stage. I'm interested there. I'm interested in. It's funny because when I thought, right, I'm going to try and become a writer, I weirdly never thought, how can I possibly make money from this? I think I just inherently knew I wasn't going to make money from being a writer, kind of thing. I think that more reflects on my my mentality around it. But that's really interesting. So you've gone out into the world, going, right, okay, how do I get this? You've stumbled by whatever means, mainly through proactive searching online, doing all that kind of stuff, reading the books and what have you. Found me because I was very good at SEO at that time, all this kind of stuff. And then you've gone, right, I'm in. What was the, have you worked, did you go into a company writing, getting a full-time position? How did you get to where you are now? What's the setup there?
No, so I didn't go into a company. I didn't go in-house. I went straight into freelancing. Mm-hmm. And I kind of cheated. And when people ask me about kind of, my origins as a copywriter, I always feel like I'm a bit of a cheat because I had a content writing career for a year. But I realized looking back on that, that is part of a copywriting career. And, now I just kind of think of it as sales copy, but I was getting paid to write words. And through those connections that I'd built from just random clients here and there, I reapproached some of them, one of which was an agency, a marketing agency who was local to where I was at the time. And I just said to them, hey, I'm doing this thing. We worked together before. I did these articles for you. We didn't really go any further than that because it was just a one-time gig. Do you need any more help. Basically, I completely fumbled it. Like looking back on it now, I know the best way to approach clients and like how I would go about that if I was doing it differently. At the time, I just fumbled my way through it. I was like, "Oh, I'm here if you need me." Thankfully, they did. They said, "Oh yeah, okay. Well, I think we might have some stuff because we were happy with your work last time." And I slowly, in that, I wasn't in house, but I was kind of attached to them, and they would kind of pass me work they were getting from their clients. I did that for another agency that was local because it seemed to work. And then I started going to local businesses. That was the big shift for me. Was kind of small, SMEs, if you like, small business, and pretty much going to them and initially saying, "Hey, love your website," or I've used you before, or I walk past your shop every day, saw you're doing leafleting, whatever it was. Can I give you a hand? Because I think maybe we could get some more business. Was making loads of mistakes that time. I wasn't really trying to frame it any larger than copy. I wasn't coming in and saying like, "Oh, we can make you loads more money. We think about your whole marketing strategy." I was sometimes guilty of not using terms that they would understand. Like I would always say, "Hey, do you want a copywriter?" They would be like, "I don't even know what that is." So I certainly made mistakes, but just through sheer persistence and volume, they were tailored pitches that I was doing effectively. I wasn't just randomly emailing people and going, "Hey, do you need a copywriter?" I was actually saying something about the business or saying why I liked it, which obviously I now know is a fantastic way to approach prospects. But the sheer amount I was doing that while I had a full-time job, I should stress. I was working 9 to 5 at that time as well. I then slowly built up a portfolio of clients, I suppose you'd say, and that would have been throughout 2020 or 2019, I think, into 2020. So cool. That's what I did.
There's a couple of things I want to pull out in there because I know we both agree on the let's just highlight the local aspects of your way into self-sustaining copywriting freelance career. It's a personal thing of mine. I think people do kind of try to go too big straight away. They'll be like, "I'm going to write for an Agora company or something like that," and it's like, okay, how? And that's if you're in the financial world. If you're in if you kind of want to be a freelance copywriter, you kind of go, "Oh, I'll write for this huge company and all this kind of stuff." I think there's a lot to be said for going local and just finding your kind of way through that. It gives you a chance. It's interesting to hear you say you realize now you might have made some mistakes. I think maybe you're being slightly harsh on yourself on the basis that you got the gigs. You can make them more efficient. I'm not talking directly about copywriting. To a local business, I would say is a good thing. Like if you say copywriter, people won't know what that is. So like you're looking to help them and what have you. But aside from that, going local and speaking to local things and saying, "Right, I've seen what you're doing. I could help you here." You'd back that as a good way of getting self-sustaining.
Yeah, well, 100%. And it's not just that. It's also the question beginners often ask is how do I get clients? They just ask that generally. And so often they come to the conclusion that, "Oh, well, I need proof to get clients, and I need to have had other clients to get clients." It's that catch-22. But what people don't understand is you don't just look at local businesses as a way to earn money. It's also a way to get those initial clients that will then get you more clients. It's so much easier to go for those bigger fish, if you like, and those international agencies and companies in other countries when you have some kind of real proof behind you. Like if you're going to them with nothing versus if you're going to them with 6 businesses in your town or in your county or whatever that you've really helped, you've got fantastic testimonials, you can actually show sales charts and things like that. That's so much stronger than it is just going to them saying, "Oh, well, I don't have time to waste with local businesses. I want a big job." So not only can you sustain like a well-paid career just from doing local, it's also a gateway into bigger things. And I would stress that, I was earning a good amount. I went from a 9 to 5 where I was an apprentice, not just an auditor, Glenn, an audit apprentice. Like how, how depressing. And if you're an audit apprentice right now watching this,
it's the greatest place to be in the world, of a certain mind. But there you go.
Yeah, ISOs and anyway. But I was on, like, I think at the time, like 19K a year. And within a year and a bit of doing content writing and copywriting, I was earning more from that than I was from my actual 9 to 5. And that was nearly all through local businesses. So it's 100%. And then I went on to, double that again, mostly through local businesses. So it's absolutely a way. If you're looking at this and you're going, oh, I actually like the idea of working with local businesses, you can definitely sustain a career off it. It's not just a way into the higher ranks, but also similarly, it's a fantastic way to do that as well.
Pitching your mind back, I mean, it's not that far to pitch it back, but pitching your mind back to that period, were there any, and thinking of copywriters watching, thinking, all right, yeah, okay, I've said I'm going to do this, I'm going to now do it and try it. Are there any like what comes to mind with regards to what were the biggest obstacles and kind of objections that you got from businesses that you think maybe now that you're more experienced have gone, damn, I should have probably done that in my pitch, or I should have done that? What's the kind of things you feel like you might have learned?
Definitely a big mistake I made, which led to an objection, was don't expect them to know what they want or need. Go to them with a plan, because I think sometimes can be a little arrogant as copywriters and can we presume that everyone else understands the value that words can bring to their business, and how it will lead to more sales, or how it will rejuvenate their brand or whatever. But if you just go and you say, even if you have proof, like even if you go and you just say like, I think we could do fantastic work together. Look at all this stuff I've done for other companies, let's go. You're still just effectively, like showing someone like a random picture. That's all you're doing. You're not actually asking them to kind of add their own mark to it and then go, yeah, this is how we're going to, draw this out together. It's much stronger of someone to, or if people feel much more strongly about you when you go to them and you say, hey, I've noticed this about your business. Really love what you're doing here. I actually think if you change this and I know how to do this, we could skyrocket these things further. When you go with an actual plan, it makes such a massive difference. And I think a big mistake I made initially was thinking that just going and telling them what I did may be enough, even when I had that proof. It's far harder to say no to someone when they've already made an effort making something for you. That would probably be the biggest one that really, really stands out to me. So just quickly, also following up. I now run a sales team as part of my in-house role, and I've been doing that for a couple of years now. And it's so eye-opening to like be exposed to direct sales every day versus when I used to be a freelancer, and just realizing, my God, 60% of the sales we make, 70% of the sales we make come from following up. If we didn't follow up, they wouldn't have been made. The same advice to freelancers. If you're watching this right now and you're a copywriter and you spend loads of time doing a pitch, or even if you just reach out to someone and you've not heard back, follow up with them. Give them a call, send them a LinkedIn message, Instagram DM them, send them another email, like whatever. Just make sure you're talking to them. They may just have not caught your email that day. They may have forgotten. They're busy people. Do follow up. You're not being annoying. If you're being annoying, they'll either block you or they'll tell you to, F off. This is going to be on YouTube, so I don't want to swear. So yeah, those would be my two bits.
I don't know that means not swearing on YouTube. But anyway, what I was going to say on that as well, the other thing I wanted to pick out from that, and it's really good advice. You mentioned about the volume as well when you are going out and pitching that. Can you give us some kind of rough idea of how many businesses you might be approaching? Are we talking about 3, 30, or 300?
I can tell you exactly. Funny you should mention 30. So my rule was to identify 30 businesses. So I do a batch of 30 businesses, and I would usually get over those in the course of 2 weeks. So I was usually doing, I guess, what's that, an average of like 2 a day-ish. It wasn't always in 2 a day. My schedule used to look more like I would wake up really early in the morning. If I'd already identified them, then I would get on with what I was going to do, or I would spend that time, looking at local businesses and being like, by the way, identifying local businesses, like I wasn't even smart about it. I just typed in like plumber Bedford. I typed in restaurants Bedford. Or don't type in Bedford if you don't live in Bedford. But that was kind of my plan. When I knew I would then get them up, I would do an audit of each one. So I'd have a quick look on their website. I'd have a look if they had social media pages up. Sometimes I would be out and about and I'd notice a billboard for a local business, or I get leaflets through my door or whatever, and they would then go on the list. I would do in batches of 30, and then I would make, what I did was I made Loom audits. Loom is a software where it's like a video recording software. And then I would email that video to them, and that would be my first point of contact. It was only like 5 to 10 minutes long. I would say I would probably spend about 20 to 40 minutes per prospect, if you like. Someone can work out how long that is, like each batch of 30. But I would get up in the morning, early in the morning, I would usually do my auditing, my notes, and then the filming. And then later in the evening, because obviously I was still working a full-time job at that point, and then later in the evening, I would do like writing emails and sending them off. And then on the weekends, I would usually just do a day of that. So I would sometimes do like 6 or 7 a day. Sometimes I would do kind of like 1 every day. I hope that gives people a sense.
Yeah, thank you for sharing it, really, because I think people are often hesitant, but I think it's reasonable. It's not insane, but it also, it is also, it's a lot. It's more than I think. If you did a straw poll where people go, all right, how many businesses shall I reach out to? I'll do 6. Actually, you could probably stick with a 330 and 300. 300 is too much. It's like, that's a lot of work. Like, no one wants to do that. I don't know how many businesses there are in Bedford. But like, it's not enough. If you, any conversion rate is like a 33% conversion rate is not probably going to happen. We know that from the world of direct response kind of stuff, but like, you need to be going out to more than you are doing now. I would hazard a guess. If you are doing 30 a day, hey, nice one, well done. Carry on, and you'll start to see the response. And I always say that I do feel as though if you do that much work, I've got no proof apart from anecdotal proof of speaking to people like you, examples in my own life and other copywriters that I spoke to. If you put that work in, you will get a lead. If you send 30 emails to 30 businesses, you will get at least one decent lead that you might still have to then develop and progress and be a bit kind of nimble about it or what have you. But it just shows there's chances are you probably need to do a bit more work than you might be doing if that is the case.
Yeah, it's that age-old thing I think freelancers have, which is they don't want to get it wrong. So therefore they delay forever, or they want to get it perfect and therefore they delay forever. But, analogy, I don't know why I've always used this in my head, but like analogy I've always used is, if you were like trapped in a cave or like down a hole or whatever, would you just be quiet and like not bother shouting, going like, oh, well, there's probably no one walking past, so I'm not going to bother shouting. Or would you be like, oh God, well, I know 90% of them may like go unheard, but it might be that one shout where someone is walking past and then, they hear me and they come and have a look. I don't know why that analogy is always stuck in my head when I was thinking about maybe
it's because you're Batman, or you have some kind of recollection of being the Batman at some point in your life.
Or just I have a terrifying phobia of holes and
you just watch a lot of troll films where you've lived down the bottom of the well. So we've gone through that. So you've gone the local thing, and I'm interested. We're getting closer to the modern day. Yep. You've made enough money from your copywriting to be able to ditch the kind of audit, ditch the full-time thing. You're supporting yourself now, and you become self-sufficient, which is like round of applause. And I don't want to skip over that, but it's like that's a huge thing for most writers, and it just shows. Again, a situation where it's possible to do that. What does your day-to-day, so from that point to kind of evolving to where you are now, what does your day-to-day amount of work? What have you thought, right, okay, well, I'm doing this, but maybe I've picked up that client that's a bit kind of like, they're not paying as much as I expect kind of thing, because I've seen what I can make in other realms and all this kind of stuff, without being gross about it, but it's just that's how things move and progress. What happened? What was that like latter part of that to get you where you are now?
I think the first thing to note, and it's always important to note this, is that it's one of the reasons I love copywriting, is that it's such a varied career, and you really can have 10 people who say they're copywriters but doing extremely different things. Even working within the same industry and doing extremely different things. What I mean by that is you can have one who is in-house, you can have one who does part-time in-house and then nothing else. You can have another who's got all freelance, another who's freelance and in-house. Like there's so many kind of combinations that you can do and different relationships you can have with businesses. The first thing I really want to stress is that I could have stopped where I was, and I could have been very comfortable and basically worked kind of like, I guess 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day, something like that, probably less. I could have stopped there and been absolutely fine, and I will forever be grateful to copywriting for allowing me to have that option. I've never been like that. I've always really enjoyed work and what's the next thing and trying to build stuff. So my day-to-day, basically, it's almost looked the same from beginning to end, in that I'm always working. I have to wake up early, I have to go to bed late, and I have to be doing something. If I don't, I'm very bored. I think it's just something that I have. But the thing that did change was where that focus was going. So initially it was the local businesses. In like 2019, so as I was kind of starting all of that up, I joined a copywriting community on Discord. That was, I think, one of the first kind of copywriting Discords. And I was on there on the first day, and that really changed the trajectory of where I was going and made me realize what was possible, because I was talking to other copywriters. I was talking to other people in marketing. So I slowly started to shift away from just doing local businesses to then realizing, hey, I could work with people in America, not just through Fiverr, but like I could actually go to businesses where I can be referred. So what started to happen was I did less. I had a consistent pool of clients at that point, and I was on recurring contracts with them, if you like. I had retainer deals, so I was getting paid monthly. I knew what I was going to get paid. It was quite comfortable. So I decided, okay, well, I don't need to be spending all my time pitching right now, like for local businesses anymore. I'm going to see if I can start to upgrade those clients. I think, like you said, Glenn, people can get comfortable, and I think they undervalue what they're really worth. And I very much could have been guilty of that. So never just don't take it for granted, but also don't just take what you have and be happy with it if you feel like you can do more. There is always someone out there who's going to pay you more money. For me, it was starting to work with e-commerce brands. So brands that were like online selling physical products. And one of the first big ones I worked with did luxury hot tubs. Completely random. It was just a chance thing. I saw they were hiring for a copywriter on, I think on Fiverr, or something like that. And I was like, okay, I'll go for that. That then got me into the world of kind of high ticket products and e-commerce generally. And then I got referred onto a company that did racing bikes. And from there, I got into a circle of people in those copywriting communities where they referred me to an industrial piping company and like all this kind of stuff. Really, really bizarre. And I started to realize, I actually really like this. I like working with people from all around the world. I like working in very different industries. I did not have a niche. I was just like going from thing to thing. And that got me really interested in e-commerce. So I decided to start doing, I thought, hey, I could probably build an e-com store. And I won't go too much into that story because, we're not talking about e-commerce, we're talking about copywriting. But long story short is that that then led me to build a couple of failed e-commerce stores, and then a couple of like ones that were actually profitable, and then a couple that were very, very successful that I then sold. So my days then started to look like, okay, it's not just doing copy for a client. It's now building my own business, talking to a supplier, writing up an email campaign for myself, building that on Klaviyo, and then moving on to the next thing and worrying about what the next big offer is going to be. But then also I've just had a reference from a water filtration company, like who have asked about my services. it started to get very, very hectic and chaotic, but in a way that I loved. So I would not say I had a system to it or a procedure. There were just so many, there were almost more opportunities that I knew what to do with. And then eventually I got into marketing strategy and e-com and building businesses. And that's kind of led to where I am today, I guess. So, but copywriting was the core of all of that, you know, and still at my heart and still fundamentally I'm a copywriter. So yeah.
No, it's a good point to make, because I think a lot of copywriters, especially if you're junior, if you're starting out, you'll have your short-term goal is to either get self-sufficient in a freelance basis or to get sufficient in a company and in-house somewhere, and those are your two short-term goals. The thing that I've learned, you clearly learned the same understanding of it, and a lot of copywriters I know have this, and the most successful copywriters tend to see this, is that when you realize you realize that copy is king, if you to borrow the phrase. You need marketing, you need offers, you need lists, you need all of that stuff. You need e-commerce, you need business know-how and business understanding of every element, from the marketing to the CS to the user experiences to the how websites works, how to code a thing. You might never do that, but you need to kind of have a rough understanding of it. You realize that it all still kind of, or I think, and I'm biased obviously because I'm a copywriter, but you kind of need words and you need copy for all of those things, across all of those things. And then you realize, well, actually, you need all that. And also, even better than that, you need the ideas that are going to be the kind of lifeblood of all of that stuff.
Yep.
And copy is perhaps most closely related to the ideas. That's all a long way around of going. You suddenly go, oh God, I've got like the key to it all here. Like I can do this, I can do that. I can be a much bigger person in the business world, in the business sense, than just being a copywriter and just thinking myself as a copywriter. So it's interesting to hear another example of how that's evolved, and you start going, all right, okay, well, I'll pursue that. You stop looking at yourself as just someone who's hired to do the words. Like the fact that you early on in the conversation, Alex, was calling yourself a content writer for a while. You did correct that and go back and go, actually, that was kind of copy as well. Yeah. But it rings out to me because so many people go, oh no, I just do content, and I sit over here in the corner and I just do content. Yeah, that's great that you do the content, but you can do so much more because you are doing the content, and your abilities, you need to do that, evolve and expand. So it's interesting to hear that, how that happened. So where are you? What's your setup now? Because I want to get to we're obviously getting to where you now run your own copywriting community in the Copy That show, but I know you're linked with a few other people in that. Some people we both know. How did that come across? What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, well, you kind of just touched on it really, in that, you know, you talking about how copy is king, and the thing I honestly think if I was gonna give one piece of advice, it would be never underestimate the power of what I call cross-pollination. And what I mean by that is learning from one thing and then applying it to something else. And that is kind of the story of how I got involved in you know, the deep copy world, if you like, of Agora and direct response. Was you know, when I first joined that early copywriting community, you know, back in like 2019, there were also people in there who knew about this thing called traditional direct response copywriting, and I'd heard of it, but I didn't know much about it. And I realized it was all about newsletters and info products and the world of finance and all this stuff I didn't really understand. But, you know, being an impressionable young copywriter, I was like, okay, well, this sounds quite interesting. Got recommended a couple of books. I read Scientific Advertising, which absolutely blew me away. I thought was just, I was like, I can't believe people were thinking of advertising this way. It makes so much sense. And from that, I kind of got into the rabbit hole of reading promos or long form sales letters, which I'm sure your audience will be very familiar with. And I had never had, and I'd be lying if I said I still don't have, but I'd never had an urge to go into finance, like in any way, like or to be a financial copywriter. But I found promos and I found lifts and the way that like the passion, the precision of which kind of traditional direct response copywriters were writing that copy, I found it like mesmerizing, and it was so fascinating to me. So I hand copied them, I analyzed them, I read hundreds, studied them, like just I got so immersed in it. But I was never planning to go into it, but it was so interesting to me. And it was taking what I learned, those lessons, because fundamentally what you learn in direct response, especially in traditional direct response, where millions and millions of dollars are tested, what you learn from that, it can be applied to any kind of selling experience. You can use that in any industry. But it was that interest that then kind of connected me with obviously the world that you're in and the people that you know. So in that copywriting community called the Copywriting Collective Discord server, it's still running. I now own it. This is our fourth year, or we're going into our fifth year. But in that community, I met quite a few people. One of whom is Sean McIntyre, who was a writer for Agora and works with kind of Agora subsidiaries, and is effectively a financial direct response copywriter and a financial analyst as well. And he was just an awesome guy, just super interesting. Got talking to him and went further and further down that path of looking at all this kind of copy. And I learned that actually most copywriters, regardless of what world they're in, regardless of whether they're in the kind of brand world as direct response often call it, or whether they're in direct response, most copywriters are just kind of genuinely interesting and nice people, and are just amazed with what works in different industries and different places. So I was being asked questions about e-commerce and freelancing. I was asking them questions about financial copywriting and newsletters and things like that. And that's what effectively led us to being friends. So that community was just built off of all of these people from different walks of life within the copywriting sphere coming together and teaching each other about freelancing and going in-house and doing traditional industries and stuff. And then Sean and a couple of other people started basically a hobby kind of streaming thing called Copy That, which was a couple of years ago now, where they got on and they just spoke about copywriting and they analyzed sales letters and they had fun. I was a guest on the show talking about e-commerce, again, like nothing to do with financial or anything like that, but I was talking about e-commerce and the businesses I was building at the time and how to look at e-com stores and stuff and the copy that they use and email sequences and all this kind of stuff. And then about 8 months later, something like that, they then just asked me, they said, hey, do you want to join as a host? I don't really know why they asked me to, but I said yes, because I thought it was a fantastic thing. And yeah, now Copy That was my gateway into meeting even more people, in the direct response world. So I've now, met Mark Ford, Bill Bonner, Kyle Milligan, John Ford. Of course, I was at the Fix Fest, a few months ago now, which was a ball of a whale of a time. Yeah, so that kind of got me into it, and it was amazing because I've never written a sales letter. I've never written a promo. I've practiced leads, and I've written a bunch of stuff for myself. I've never had one published. I've never gone to a publisher going, "Hey, I want to be a financial copywriter." But I've met all these people now, and I've learned so much from them that I've then applied to my e-com stores, which has led to their success. Or I've applied to my freelancing, or I've applied to my consulting, that has then made those go so much better. That if you're watching this and you're a freelancer or you're in-house or you're interested in direct response or whatever it is, or you want to go down the kind of brand route, just talk to people and have a genuine interest in everything and all those other spheres, because it's that kind of stuff that you will then apply to your own work and be like, my God, why have we never thought of this before? And you also just meet some great people along the way. So hopefully that kind of answers your question, Glenn, of how
it's good. And I think I think you said it yourself, and I agree with it wholeheartedly, and it's the idea of that cross-pollination. Yeah, because I think that's a nice way of thinking about many people who listen to the stuff that I ramble on about all the time. We've crossed both worlds. So I come from that direct response world that you talk about, and all the strange financial promos and all this kind of stuff. But I also exist in the brand world and do that kind of stuff at the same time. And freelancers think, oh, well, I don't want to get a job in an Agora or something, all right, or Agora copywriter thinks, oh, I don't want to learn about tone of voice guides and all this kind of stuff. But all of those ideas, when you see someone who's interesting and smart and intelligent, and you go, they're doing it that way, how can I apply that, what they're doing, to the thing I'm doing over here? It works outside of advertising and sales. I mean, it works in everything. I'm spend half my time like editing a novel, and then I'm like, oh, right, hang on a minute, that would allow me to edit that better. Or if I'm doing an idea, or I'm doing show don't tell over on a promo, and then I look at some fiction I've made up and go, that's just telling everybody what's going on rather than showing it and what have you. So all of these things cross pollinate. And I think that's one of the many reasons to get involved with people like yourself, the things that are going on and Copy That, the Copy Collective, all these things. It's the more people you meet, the more ideas you can absorb and put through your own mind and see where it comes out on top. See where it comes out in your own expression of that, which is great. We've not had to use the Sartre of being and nothingness, Alex.
That was my big
close. I was worried about it. I thought it might come out. I thought I might have to read some of it again, which I think I read. I think I asked for it once for Christmas because used to be a very pretentious man. I still am in many ways, but I started reading it. It's absolute tripe. It's almost impossible to read. You, Sartre, and your rubbish books. But we've not had to use it because it was very insightful. I'm really pleased and really thankful for you giving such a good insight and honest insight and open insight into, especially those formative years, going out and getting like gigs and how much work and what that like persistence that needs to you need to go through. I am doing in a Ciceroian logic way. I won't point out the fact that that's what I advise you to do, or here's what you do. But that persistence, and that is the key. And I think you'll probably attest to that from what you've been telling me. You've just got to stick at it and see what comes, and it will come if you're open to ideas, cross-pollinate, and do that kind of stuff. Then you'll be in a good place. Where do people find you, Alex, if they want to get involved in your shiznay? A word you're allowed to use, shiznay. I don't know what it means, but
it's not one I've used previously. But if you are interested in my
word shit by saying shiznay.
Oh, okay. Well, you can say shit now. This is on your channel anyway. I don't care if it gets demonetized. Get up in my...
We're not monetizing anything. You know how we work. We're useless at that kind of stuff.
Oh God, yeah. Copywriters don't know how to run businesses.
Yeah, we don't care.
But if you do want to find me, I suppose
I've been burning fivers under the table all the way.
Well, you've got to keep warm in this recession, or not quite recession, but that doesn't.
Where do we find you? Sorry.
Yeah, yes. I mean, you can just search Alex Myatt on LinkedIn if you want to talk to me directly. I can't promise that I will reply, but I will do my absolute best. And if you want to know more about, I guess, the lessons that I have, for they are many, visit copythatshow.com or youtube.com/copythat. And we have a load of free YouTube videos on there. I know you'll be interviewing Sean as well, and we have you on our channel, of course. When these videos are up, I don't know, but I'm sure if you go over to Copy That, Glenn may or may not be on there. But yeah,
absolutely. I'm like, is it Neo when he goes into the Matrix and he's there. He's just like, I'm just binary numbers floating every copywriting channel in the world.
I've never seen the Matrix.
You've never seen the Matrix?
I've never seen I'm sorry.
Woo! I mean, I don't know why. I'm not a massive fan of the Matrix. I used to drink in a pub called the Matrix in Grimsby, and it became like a Cheers to my local friends. We'd go in and they'd have a pint waiting for me when I walked in. But the Matrix film is good. It's good pop culture. You should watch.
I'll read Sartre first. I think
I mean, do not do that. Do not do. I nearly did a more aggressive swear word. Then do not do that. You're not.
Oh yeah, you.
Anyway, thank you very much, Alex.
Yes, thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It always is. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.